Welcome to the world of Warcraft.
Welcome to our Scholomance run from just the other night. We've got another unusual group going on. We have our 3 rogues, and we have a shaman healer this time. And instead of healing, I'm tanking. So we'll get our marks up. We are going to pull around the corner back here. And let's break that down for just a moment. So, how this pull should go, and a little bit about the next few pulls. We've got our saps down on Moon and Square, as usual. We are going to be pulling Skull and X back up here, around the corner, line of sighting. X is a caster, so we want to make sure we line of sight them. And if we can pull Skull first, while X is still trying to cast, we will get a few seconds to beat on Skull alone. We're focusing on one target. I'm taking 1 damage from only one source. Makes it easier on the healer, and the DPS can just go to town on Skull. When you're pulling these, you do have to be careful. There's a patrol that walks this way, a humanoid patrol. These mobs are usually far enough away. There's enough space here. You shouldn't have to worry about them pulling together. There's also a skeletal guard over here. It patrols in a square, but he should be far enough away as well. So this first group is pretty safe to pull as we have it marked. Let's go ahead and see how it goes. See, we've got Skull, and we've got a second or two without X. I had forgotten that the ghosts punt, so I'm getting away from that bridge, because I'd rather not get punted down and wipe the group already. Alright, now we're going to focus on Moon next. Moonfire. You'll see they Mind Flay, but since Mind Flay has a slow element, we're able to shift out of it, thus taking less damage and getting rid of the movement impairing effect of Mind Flay. And the rogues are able to just unload and take them out real easy. I thought I'd have to shift to Moonfire, but sap ran out a little bit early, so we were able to shift right back and take out Square. Alright, let's go over this next pull. We've got Square hidden behind the totem name here. We've got Moon already sapped. We're going to be killing Skull and X and pulling them both back around this corner. This banister here, make that clear. This banister acts as a line of sight breaker. So it's essentially a solid wall in the game world, and we're going to pull them back and around this corner to get them out of, well, I shouldn't say to get them out of, to get them close enough that we can fight them safely without any of these patrols from the skeleton or these other mobs. You know, if I was to go right in here, these other mobs right here would pull on us. So we want to pull this group back. I don't know if that's enough arrows for you guys, but let's clear that up and watch how this goes. We've got our sap on Square now. I'm going to go ahead and pull Skull. We're going to get a hit or two in on Skull, or apologies, on X. And then we're going to go right back on the Skull to try and keep threats so the rogues can do their thing and backstab to their heart's content. With 3 rogue DPS like this, who know their business, my only goal as a Druid tank, and mind you, I am new to Druid tanking. This is the first dungeon I've actually tanked in Turtle WoW, and the first dungeon I've tanked as a Druid in general. I'm used to Warrior tanking, which is a bit different. Not wholly, but there are nuances to each, and I'm just not experienced with the Druid. Anyways, back to the rogues. Usually one of them will open with a cheap shot or potentially 3 ambushes. I leave it to them. They know their business, and you'll see them execute it nearly to perfection most of this run. The only mistakes that are made, in my opinion, are ones that either myself, I've mismarked, mispulled, or sometimes things just happen in a group as you're going. We've seen that in a few of our other videos. Best intentions and things still go wrong. So right here I make a mistake. The healer's drinking on the stairs, and I forget that there's a risen guard that walks right up to that door. Here comes the guard. And unfortunately we get both. So I mark Skull right away to give the rogues a target to focus on, and then I try to keep threat on both. I'm trying to swipe when I can, also maul, because maul will give me more threat than just swipe. And I've noticed earlier that my swipe wasn't enough to keep them from running to the healer. Thankfully, we were able to adapt and take out these guards. Keep threat on us so that the rogues are able to do their maximum DPS. Now, we need to take out this spider, and I'm debating, should I take out the spider when it goes through the middle of the room, or should I try to pull this group to the right? So I go ahead and mark up the group to the right here, but then I change my mind when I realize that the spider is the priority target, right? If we mess this pull up to the right, so let me just pause this real quick. Let's go back a second here. There's a good angle. If I mess this pull up, not only will we have this group and the spider, but behind the spider there's another group. So if I was to go in on this group and the spider patrols by and aggroes, we are going to aggro this group as well, and that's a wipe. I am not a good enough tank. It would not be the healer's fault. I would be taking way too much damage. Potentially the healer would get the aggro from their healing aggro, and they would die. It's basically a total wipe. The rogues might be able to vanish, but for all intents and purposes, they're just going to be waiting on the tank and the healer. So we are going to take out the spider once he patrols back into the middle of the room. I'm going to adjust my mark. Skull will be sent to the spider, and let's watch how that goes. Here we go. We wait for it to get to the middle. We pull it. It's about as good as you can expect. You just don't want to wait for it to get too far to one side or the other, or else you'll pull the group that it's closest to, which once again is probably another wipe at this point. We haven't cleared enough of the room. But the sap is up. I'm going to ask for a resap because that sap is almost over. So for these groups, I am going to pause here and talk about how most of these groups will pull. So this is Necrolite. They're just a caster. I think they have a curse and they do shadow damage with Shadow Bolt. Here we have a summoner. He summons these skeletons, and he will keep summoning them until he's either dead or you are. So I'm going to go ahead and keep them crowd controlled, because that's the easiest for me. Once we take out Skull, we're going to line of sight Skull back here, and then I'm going to run in and take out Moon as soon as Skull's dead. Let's see how that goes. Well, as you notice, I did not line of sight the Necrolite. You can. We went ahead and decided to charge in because we'd got rid of that spider. You'd think, having this be the second time I've had to record this, that I would remember that, but that's why we have marks, and that's why we talk about things after the fact, because remembering things is not our strongest suit. So we're going to go ahead and sap the summoner again, and sap the Necrolite. and then we're going to take out the Necromancer. We are going to line of sight pull to the right here. You can see I tried to Moonfire Skull. Appears to have been resisted, even though there was no notification of that. So this is just a simple line of sight pull, and then we're going to line of sight the next mob. But instead, I noticed the skeleton coming in, so I decide to take advantage of the sap target still being up, and we take out the skeleton real quick before the sap runs out on the other targets. I notice sap's about to run out. We bash the Dark Summoner here. He only gets one skeleton summoned, not too bad. We're able to take him out. We're able to get a lot of threat on the Necrolite here, and get a swipe down or two on this skeleton and the mob, and then the skeleton's pretty easy. So for this next group, it's going to be rinse and repeat. Let's go ahead and fast forward to the boss. Alright. We have summoned the boss. He will be coming down and landing on the stairs behind me here, on this little ledge where the rogues are. And we'll be fighting him up there because he does punt. He starts out in undead form and will shift into his current gargoyle form about a third of the way through the fight, maybe a fourth. Either way, his gargoyle form is the one that punts back, so we have to be extra careful. So I put my back to this wall, not fully. I should have backed into the corner proper at this point, but at least I'm not, with my back to the open air out there to our right. That would have been disastrous. And it has happened. I don't think it happened to us in Retail Classic, but I remember in Vanilla some people getting punted out there. Here we go. See, he's punting us a little bit. We're just getting knocked into the air, though. Not really sent anywhere. And he shifts back. Oh, that's right. He shifts back and mind controls. So I shift out of bear so that I don't use any of those abilities, and I only use the Night Elf form abilities. Night Elf melee is pretty weak. Although we do get a Starfire off. It's pretty weak. We don't do a lot of damage with it. Mind control ends. We're able to get threat back. He shifts again. Go ahead and tank and spank and finish this up. We'll show loot and then we'll move on to the next pulls. And there he goes. We give our healer a little love. As a tank, you always want to take care of your healer, and conversely, as the healer, you always want to let your tank know that they are appreciated. Alright, next pull. Mind you, we have one rogue AFK. He had to do something in real life. It happens. No problem, right? We can take out a group while we wait for him to come back. This group needs to die anyways. So it's typical group. We're going to sap the summoner, sap the necrolite. What I want to do is pull this mob, this skull, back here. We're going to pull it behind this, but behind us, right? So there's one of these that's behind us over here, and we're going to hide behind it. So we are going to pull this group back, and our problem lies in this pull, as you'll see, something to watch for, is when I come for this mob right here. What I should have done was let them know, hey, get ready to kick his summon. Because if we can kick his summon, we can pull him back, because then he goes into melee mode for a few seconds before he starts summoning again. But I don't do that. I mess up, don't communicate properly. We kill this mob, so we go ahead and we kill Skull, take them out, and when we run back to take out Square, we aggro this group, and we wipe out. You'll see. Here we go. Once we're done, we'll talk about exactly what happened and some ways that potentially I could have prevented it. So you see we use this to line of sight. And I wasn't sure if it would work, but it did, thankfully. Take out the skeleton. Move on to the necrolyte. So at this point I'm like, alright, well, we'll move in, take out square, no problem, as long as nobody stands. So, you see what just happened. You didn't notice, because it's a little hard to see from here, our rogues opened up behind this mob. And this skeleton is aggroed, which means this whole group here is now aggroed on us. So things are going to get dicey. We are going to have a caster and a summoner. So we're going to have two mobs here, one summoner, one caster. They're just going to be free casting on us. And our healer back over here. So as the tank, I'm going to be running around like crazy, and I'll try to narrate it as best I can for you. But for now, let's just watch and see how this plays out. Oh, I apologize. Two casters and a summoner. So I go run over here, try to challenging shout, get everybody on us. The rogues, let me pause this real quick if I can get an angle. No, I can't. The rogues blinded one of the casters for 10 seconds, so great move. Keeps the caster off us for a second. They bomb, try to help with the other skeletons. I try to move over to help with the necrolyte. Unfortunately, with our rogues DPS split up so poorly, they're trying to help keep things off the healer. I'm trying to keep things off the healer. I'm taking lots of damage. Our shaman gets taken out. I get taken out. Thankfully, Jaxil was able to vanish. We release and we reset. I admit in chat, hey, sorry guys, bad pull. And Jaxil says I backed into them, which he didn't actually, as we see. He actually, when he opened up. So that wasn't, so if they did aggro on him, what I'm trying to say is, I don't think it's his fault because I should have communicated better. If they had been standing on the side of the mob that I was and kicked when he was trying to summon, we could have pulled that mob safely away. They could have got behind the mob and taken him out. Let's go ahead and fast forward to when we are all back up and ready to go for the next pull. And we're back, buffed up. Got our mana. You can see we've got a sap going on Skull. Don't really need it. We're going to go ahead and line of sight behind this brazier and take them out. Piece of cake. Our other rogue is also back. For the moment. Unfortunately, he will have to AFK. Did you see what just happened? Let's rewind. So you'll notice, go back just a little bit more. Alright, so you'll notice here I run towards this group and I'm thinking, should I go for this loot? I see how close it is to these mobs and I remember how close our rogue got to aggro the group and I decide it's not worth it. Unfortunately, in this case, somebody does try and loot it, and I believe it's our healer. It's not, I don't blame them, I mean, it's shiny loot. They run to get it, they aggro these mobs again. So we end up fighting these three. However, this time it's only these three. It's not, you know, 2 extra mobs that we had here, so we're able to take them out. But let's see how we adjust to it, and how quickly we can adapt and overcome. So you can see me turn around, I'm going to open the door, and I'm starting to look at the next groups. I notice here we've got the summoner starting to summon. You can see both these little gnomes are casting. They're going to hit our shaman pretty hard. These spells, our shaman is going to do a great job and get out of dodge. They're going to run far enough away that these casters will have to start moving. And I'm going to go ahead and shift back into bear and move in to try and take up as much threat and be as big of a target and as threatening as possible. Get everybody focused on me. We hit the summoner to get them, we bash the summoner, we maul the summoner, and then we move on to the necrolytes. Try to swipe, get a little bit of threat on all of them. Doesn't work on this one, so we go ahead and try and maul him. Get that threat back. Get a taunt up. And there we go. See, the rogues took the summoner down. They were able to handle that themselves. I can trust them to do that. We've worked together real well. And it's one of the great things I enjoy about these groups. Is not only do we do some uncommon stuff, and it's a unique challenge to run with 3 rogues, as we are, but they know their business, and I can trust that they can kill one mob on their own and will either vanish or evasion tank as needed. Go ahead and clear everybody's curses, and then we'll set up for the next pull. So this skeleton is in a safe spot, but there is something you have to watch for. What I'm looking for here, you'll notice that I've looked to my left. Not only is there this group, there's another group of NPCs here. There's also a patrolling skeleton. And if you pull it at this mob at the wrong time, the skeleton that we have marked with skull, when this mob is at the end of its patrol, you'll get both and potentially this group. So we don't want to do that. We want to try and make sure that this skeleton is not coming, and so he doesn't pull this group, and so we only pull the one skeleton. But that's what's going through my mind here as you see me move the camera around. I just wanted to share that. So here we go. This is how that pull goes. The group on the right is far enough away that they will not pull, as long as you pull the skeleton to the left of the doorway. I think if you pull him to the right, he might get too close to that mob, and then you'll end up fighting, 4 instead of the 1. I'm trying to mark this group on the right, and I go into cat to do it and prowl, but I forget that I still have a dot. So now I have to wait for prowl to come back up. Here we go. We're going to start marking our sap targets, and you can see I can't click through that because it's a solid object. So we go ahead and move in, prowl. We mark the patrol just so it's more visible, harder to miss. We've got our 2 sap targets down and the 1 kill target. Now these ghosts on Turtle WoW are particularly annoying. In Retail Classic, as a warrior, I know for a fact you could demo shout and all those ghosts would disappear. I almost guarantee it. It's just, I strictly remember that. Now, what you will notice here is when it goes to the multiple ghost form, which it'll be doing in just a second, I try to shout. I do get threat, but they don't go away. They stay here. Thankfully, we're able to take them out pretty easy with bomb. Although there will be times you'll notice later on, further on in the dungeon, they don't go away when we bomb. So I can't be sure exactly why, but those ghosts act a little bit erratically and differently each time. The adept there just cone colded, and unfortunately I had the mob turned towards the healer, so the healer got hit as well. One thing to remember, especially as a tank, is to make sure you have the mob turned away from the group so that you're the only one taking that focused AoE damage. I should say directional AoE damage. Alright. We're down to 2 DPS. Unfortunately, Jax Eel had to AFK again, real life stuff. If you've got kids, you totally understand. Now we've got the next pull marked. Notice we do have a skeleton coming. And we have Jax Eel here trying to come around here and sap square. One thing to watch out for that I honestly didn't notice, even though he's right in front of me right now, you'll see this little gnome. For some reason I forgot about him, so I don't have him marked. He'll just show up on us and I'm not ready in a later pull, because I miss him again. This next pull, unfortunately, we get some bad luck. I should say it's bad luck for Jax Eel, but you'll see a sap fail, but more importantly than the sap fail, because those things happen, you will see him fail, vanish, fail, And instead of running to the group and trailing all these mobs, he's going to run out here and die. What that'll do is prevent any aggro from going from these onto us and wiping the group. So we lose one rogue, but we save the group, the shaman's able to res, and we're able to keep going with minimal downtime. Another excellent move, and why I really enjoy playing with our rogues here. They know their business, and it's just another example of that. So let's see how this goes. Let's watch the example and see what we can learn. You notice that the ghost saw him, unfortunately. I go into bear and I stay around this corner. He ends up aggroing the group across the way in the patrol, and he dies somewhere where we can actually res him. You can see the patrol's coming, but thankfully the shaman's able to res him before. You'll notice our shaman is resing, and right here, and you'll notice that right here, Achlysae, looked up how to pronounce your name, distracted the patrol so that our shaman here, who's still resurrecting our rogue, now has an extra 10 seconds to do it. So it gives us enough time to get him up without aggroing on that patrol. So just another smart, quick thinking move, another utility that rogues have that is often underused. So I just wanted to point that out, because as a former rogue myself, I really appreciate it when people know what they're doing. So we get him up. He quickly runs back out of line of sight. We get him rebuffed. And we're going to try that again. Now before we do that again, I just wanted to point out another move that our rogues do that is super helpful, it's smart, and lets us pull one mob at a time. So you'll notice here we've got Moon and Square sapped. We have the patrol coming. Now on Turtle WoW, I don't believe this worked in retail classic. When I say retail, I'm typically talking about retail classic. I haven't played current World of Warcraft in 7 years now, I think, maybe 8. Anyways, that's not important. So what is important right now is our sap targets will not pull when they unsap once we pull this patrol. So this patrol is going to get to about here. We're going to Moonfire pull it back here, and these mobs will not get any aggro from this pull at all. And in retail classic, I believe that they do, even if they're sapped. So this is just another thing in Turtle WoW, a slight difference. Let's go ahead and roll it, and I'll show you what we're talking about. There we go. We get out of kitty, Moonfire, go into bear, and we'll take out this Risen Protector. And you'll notice that we exit combat. So leaving combat, that means that those sap targets will not aggro on us when the sap expires. And then we're able to get those saps back down, and we end up taking out Skull. Now, is this where I mess up, or is it later? No, it's not here. We get to, sometimes sap breaks early, it happens. We're able to take out that adept, and then we're going to take out this adept. Our sap target should be coming here in just a moment. Let me go ahead and Moonfire, pull that one back. And after this, I'm going to fast forward a little bit to our next wipe and go over what happens. If I was to go through this whole dungeon, it was almost 2 hours and 15 minutes of recording time. I don't want to have to break this into 4 parts, so we'll just go ahead and break it into 2 or 3. Alright. We've got a problem. And the problem is me. So you'll notice here, I'm about to pull this skeleton. I should apologize. I'm about to pull the spider. The skeleton can wait. What I do here is I try to wait for the skeleton to get far enough in between these two mobs that there's enough distance that they will not aggro. And what I don't realize is it doesn't matter. At least here in Turtle WoW. This guy will aggro whoever he's closest to. It doesn't matter. There's no sweet spot in the middle like there was in the other room where you could pull the spider in between all the mobs. No. What I'm going to do here is try to pull this spider without pulling the extra mobs and instead pull this whole group here as well. And it does not end well. So, if I had marked these mobs and had saps up already, it might not have been a big deal. But then again, I was trying to be cheeky and pull this mob without any extra adds. But I messed up. I tried to line of sight a few times. I do want to show you guys just what happened because it's important, I think, to learn from my mistakes so you guys don't have to make them. So here we go. I try to moonfire and I get that extra group and I'm like, oh great. You can see me say F in the chat. I try to line of sight them around the corner here. But we have so many mobs and then the ghost just breaks up. It is a mess. And I do my best to just swipe and keep as much threat as possible. But we're just not doing enough single target damage, right? We've got it split up a little bit. And there's just really no way for the healer to keep me up. I'm just going to be taking way too much damage. There it goes again. I try to get threat off the healer and I just fail. And I believe our healer goes down here in just a second. And I'm trying to run around. It's a mess. I should have done a little bit better job, obviously. And just tried to pull those groups individually. Although they do such a good job for so long, I honestly thought we might be able to handle it. Until Jax died. With 50% of our DPS gone, we're just taking too much damage and not able to deal enough back in time. Our healer has run out of mana, and so it's only a matter of time until I go down. So here I go. And once I'm down, of course, the rest of the group will go as well. Thankfully, they did not aggro onto Jaxiel, and we're able to run back and reset. You'll notice this error on the screen. It has to do with not grid, obviously. This was the first time it popped up. I think I just needed to delete my WDB folder, which is something you should be doing regularly on Turtle WoW as it is. I'll go ahead and apologize in chat. Thankfully, that was the last time the whole group wiped, I believe. Or is there one more? No, there's at least one more. At least one more time we wipe. You'll see though. It's not a total wipe, it's only a partial, I believe. But anyways, this one was my bad, and I give the group credit for almost saving it. They did a heck of a job trying to pull us out of the fire that I had thrust us into. We'll come back when we're all buffed up and ready to go again. Alright, we're back, buffed up, ready to go. Let me go ahead and break down this pull real quick. There's a mob that I don't see. So there's another gnome somewhere in this group. I assume he's off screen here. I don't see him. We get a sap down. And then we try to pull this ghost back around here. You'll see me use a bookshelf to line of sight. I think you could use this wall right here. There's just enough room here. But on the other side, that you should be able to line of sight. But the bookshelf's just a bigger target. It's easier for me to see and visualize. And I think it makes a better example. So here we go. You can see me run back there just to test to make sure you can go back there still. Jaxiel runs up to sap. I mark the patrol again so we can visually see him a little bit easier. I run up to pull Skull. Just a moment, as soon as that patrol goes away. I go ahead and pull. Line of sight. Got the tutor, and then I see this adept also. I'm like, what the heck? What did I do? So I try to line of sight them, and I don't have a mark, so I can't see. Ghost breaks up. We try to get threat back. Now, mind you, we still have this adept just free casting. So I charge him to start getting threat back. Trying to bring things back into control. There's another example of making sure that you have these adepts turned so that you don't blast the group with that directional AoE. Our shaman was doing a great job of line of sighting their casters until she had to come out and cast, which I tried to do here. Pull them back in this corner. Little bit of craziness trying to control what's going on. Another directional AoE. This was just another messy pull that I wanted to make sure to show. So hopefully you guys can prevent it. So let's go ahead and advance to another challenging pull. It's going to be the group in the far right corner in the back there. I almost forgot. This pull here, there's a really good example of some tricks you can pull in Turtle WoW that you cannot pull in vanilla, or I should say vanilla, Retail Classic. But what's going to happen is we're going to get a sap down on one target, and the improved sap is going to fail, so that 10% chance to not enter stealth after sap is going to happen. We're going to end up with a very interesting situation. I'll try and do my best to explain before it happens, and then you can watch it. So Jaxiel here is going to be the one that fails with the improved sap. Not on purpose, obviously. It's a 10% chance any rogue can do it when they have improved sap. But it fails. Instead of vanishing, he notices that Skull is the only one aggroing, right? So he runs back. I believe I Moonfire it. And I think he vanishes about here. If I remember, he just vanishes. And these mobs stand there. And even though this mob is active, right? This mob is still aggroed on us. These mobs don't react at all. It is the craziest thing. You have to see it to believe it. Hopefully I get some good camera angles of it. But this happens twice. Let's go ahead and look at the first example. Here we go. Oh, it was Achlysae that did that. I apologize. So you can see that those mobs are still, they're not sapped anymore. They just let this happen. It is so weird that they would not be aggressive after we did that. So here's the next one. I'll just let it happen in real time so you can see what's going on. Oh, okay, it didn't actually happen. This time improved sap just failed. But that was such a weird example. I had to show it. Other than that, it's a normal pull. We line of sight, take everybody out. Let's move on to that more challenging pull that I spoke of. So here we go. This group in the back corner here is an extremely challenging one to pull separate. Now our rogues, as you'll see me asking, I'm asking them if there's a way to pull these separate. They've done Scholo a few times on Turtle WoW, so I'm trying to pick their brain. And they let me know that as long as that closest one and the other group, let me pause here and show you what I'm talking about. So as long as this guy is sapped, since he's the closest to this group here, as long as he's sapped, this group cannot and will not aggro on these guys. That is something that is unique to Turtle WoW, as I spoke of earlier. Don't try that in Retail Classic or you will wipe the group. So I'm going to go ahead and try to line of sight pull these guys back here. And if I don't do it now, I do it on the next pull. I'm trying to remember. Anyways, but this is a good place to use. The mobs in the basement are not, they're not up there. They're further down and around a corner, so it's safe to pull groups into this room here. Go ahead and clear that up. You'll see us talk about it for another second, and then we go ahead and do our pull. You can see only the closest should pull because they have that sap down. I ask them to resap just to make sure the saps are fresh. There we go. I visually make sure that everybody's got it down. That's right, I have line of sight back here. Couldn't remember. These candle holders here sometimes work as well for line of sight. Anyways, we take this group out. Just gotta try and keep thread. Our healer really did a good job. If I didn't speak about this before, I should have. They did a great job of running towards me so that I'm able to not only see that they have mobs on them, but since I've seen it before they even went to that group and they started running towards me, it's just that much easier. Close the distance, they take less damage, and I'm able to get threat that much faster. Just another team dynamic we've seen in some other videos, but really appreciate it here, as now I am the tank instead of the healer, and I can appreciate it on a different level. So we take this group out, and this is where I'm going to cut part 1. We'll pick up part 2, the Rattlegore pre-pulls with those dragonkin you can see in the background, and then the group to our left here underneath the bridge where you first come in. There's some pretty tricky pulls in there that we'll explore. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching part 1 of our Scholomance run. You guys have a good one and take care.